Well, for another perspective on LinkedIn, let's get to Palo Alto and Jeff Clavier. He is the founder and managing partner at SoftTech VC, an early-stage venture capital firm. He passed on LinkedIn back in 2004 and says it's one of his biggest regrets. He does own a stake now in Twitter. Jeff, welcome back to Bloomberg West. So first of all, as we discussed earlier, LinkedIn has certainly been on a bit of a roller coaster up to this point. Do you think now the price is right?
If you look, hi Emily, it's good to be back. If you look at the price of LinkedIn compared to other social networks, I would contend that the multiple is actually cheaper. If you look at the revenue, it sounds like they are on a $400 million run rate. They're floating at 3 to 4 billion. It's sort of a 10x. And if you compare them to Ren or other, even Facebook, it's actually cheaper and it's more solidified because it's not only ad revenue, you have sort of corporations spending money on those solutions. So I would say it's expensive, but it's not completely crazy. One number I would mention as well is Zing, which is a professional network in Europe. Those guys have been around for a long time. They launched around the same time as LinkedIn. They've been on the public market for a couple of years, and they're trading at $400 million roughly, with 10 million users and something like $70 million in revenue, not growing as fast as LinkedIn. So if you do the math, we're actually in the same ballpark.
What about potential challenges, as you mentioned, from other competitors, as well as more professional networking actually being done on Facebook?
That is the one question that everyone is asking. Will Facebook and the companies building on top of the Facebook social graph be able to really compete with LinkedIn? And I think it's too early because, you mentioned Branch Out. Ari talked about that company. And one of my investments, Top Prospect, is also doing the same thing, which is relying on friends' connections to try and find jobs for your friends or for yourself. Will that work? Will it compete with LinkedIn? Will it really sort of make a dent in their revenue? I'm actually not sure, because if you think about Facebook, it's really something that people will use every day for different types of reasons. One might be, and that might be sort of lateral, finding sort of jobs or helping friends find jobs for themselves. Whereas LinkedIn is really sort of a professional environment, and the intent you have when you use LinkedIn is really sort of either I'm going to network professionally or I'm going to update my resume. And so I think there is definitely a place for both.
Jeff, let me ask you, why in the first place did you pass on LinkedIn? I mean, this is a business that's been around for quite a while. It's been through some ups and downs. What made you not want to get involved?
That was a long time ago. And at that time,
I don't want to rub your face in it, but yeah.
Well, you are. 70,000 something users, and I just didn't see the opportunity of making money on the basis of those relationships. And so the big question for me was, can they actually generate a revenue model which will be sustainable and build an interesting company? And at that time, I thought that 10 pre was kind of rich for me, and I passed. I've always been a very sort of valuation-conscious investor, and unfortunately, that day I said no. And yes, I do regret it.
Jeff, Mike Maples of Floodgate, another early investor in Twitter, told us last time he was on Bloomberg West that he thinks LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter are the winners in terms of these big platforms that are going to be major connectors, and that there's not going to be any more room for anybody else. Would you agree with that?
For maybe the next couple of years, it's possible that we won't have a fourth platform sort of showing up. But I believe in innovation and the fact that people will just think about new platforms, especially around mobile phones. I really believe that there's something which is going to emerge. Will it take 2 years? Will it take 5 years? I don't know. Certainly, from today's standpoint, Twitter, Facebook, and for the professional environment, LinkedIn are definitely the platform winners, which means that other people are building on top of their APIs in order to develop value-added applications and services. So, and that's one of the value drivers of LinkedIn. I think that they've only recently, maybe a year ago, released their APIs, and not that many people have actually built very solid applications on top of those, but it's coming along. So I would say that if you look at the different revenue sources, the fact that LinkedIn is growing really, really fast. I mean, let's just understand that getting to 100 million users, 75 of which visited the site last month, is a real performance. And so they're growing by 1 million users every day or couple of days or something like that. So something which is really growing at a fast clip, having real revenue with a real traction as a platform is definitely very valuable.
All right, Jeff Clavier of SoftTech VC.